What's up, everyone? Mitchell Saltzman here at Turtle Rock Studios talking with Chris and Brandon. And what I want to talk to you guys about right now is the game director. So really quick to kind of establish, for those that don't know what the game director is in Back 4 Blood, can you kind of just give a general overview of how it works?
Yeah, so our games are very dynamic. We have a lot of procedural elements. And so we've got a game director, which is this whole system that's a network, through the entire game that basically changes a lot of the game on the fly, according to what players are doing or according to what it wants to do and that sort of thing. So it's really the idea is to make it every gameplay, every playthrough unpredictable and dramatic, so you never know. Even though you're playing the same mission over again, you don't know, what exactly you're facing.
You guys have a video on the Turtle Rock YouTube channel where you talk about how you choreograph the experience to the player. I was wondering if you kind of explain what exactly that means.
In a lot of games, the action is kind of baked into a level, if you will. So you come around the corner and then three guys jump over a dumpster or whatever, and it's kind of scripted, right? So nothing in our game is scripted, and the director is always choosing when to spawn enemies, what types of enemies to spawn, what things to place in the world for the cleaners to pick up, and what items to use. And the game director now has a lot more tools in the chest of things that they can do. It can do through the card system, so it can make the level really dark, so that you have to use flashlights and it's harder to see. It can make the level foggy. It can make the common infected armored. It could make them have spikes, so really mutates the game, mutates the enemies, changes a lot of what you're facing from moment to moment.
So you mentioned the card system. That's something I want to touch upon because it's such an interesting idea to provide the variation in a game like this. How did you guys arrive at using a deck building card system to provide that variation?
The challenge for us was bringing a 4-player co-op based game and into the modern genre, or modern gaming, where we needed a progression system, right? We wanted players want a return on hours of gameplay, and so the card system for us was initially just a way for us to share a progression, right? Where you could progress as a character, and now you can make these better guns spawn in the world. Basically it's a shared progression system, right, between you and your three friends. And so it doesn't matter, what level you are, what level I am. Everybody can just jump in the game and have fun. So that's what it was invented for. But once we had that system, it started reaching into all of these other aspects of the game, to where we were building decks, and then we realized that the director could use cards as well, and so we started making evil cards to be used against the players. So that's where it all came out of the progression system.
Even past that, we started making the corrupted cards, and then we were like, well, how's a player going to counter that, right? So we would make cards to counter the corruption cards, and then we'd like, oh, now these cards are really strong, and now we got to make director cards that counter those cards, so just a bunch of layers on the onion. So when you go in, me as a player, I can affect the game, right? The game's sort of dynamic nature,
The idea of a game director is not something that's completely new. It's been in games like Left 4 Dead. Can you talk a little bit about, outside of the deck building system, what are some things that you did with the game director to kind of evolve the mechanic in Back 4 Blood?
The game director has his fingers in a lot of pies. It really can adjust any aspect of the game. So we brought a lot of new stuff to Back 4 Blood, so I can give some examples. Like we added weak spots to all our specials, so that a sharpshooter could actually kill an enemy more quickly than somebody who's just spraying, right? But the director can actually armor those weak spots. So if you're on a higher difficulty or a later level, or the director's just going to give you a hard time this round, can put a piece of armor over the weak spot, so you have to shoot the armor off first before you can access the weak spot. So there's just a lot of little tricks, throughout the entire game, really every aspect of the game that the game director can play around with to really mess up your game. So I think For us, we were trying to give players a lot more control through the card system. I can affect what spawns in the world. I can actually buy weapons and equipment through coppers that you find in the world, right? I can actually buy the weapons as opposed to just scavenging and being at the whim of the director as far as what you find in the world, right? Now players can affect what spawns in the world, and so the players have a lot more control, but also we need to give the director more control to counter that.
Yeah, it was really designed to change your play style kind of on the fly. So you go in, you see the corruption cards come up. You might have runners instead of walkers, right? You might have elite commons instead of the non-elite commons. So you might have to go for headshots. It's really supposed to change how you play. So you see the cards. Okay, well we have runners, so we might need to take more firecrackers, right? The walkers, we just need to be careful that they don't get to us. So we don't really need to worry about that as much. But we might have to worry about the tall boys are armored. So it's basically the spine of the entire game.
What's an example of one of the really nasty things that the director can do to a team that can just completely ruin their day?
There's so many, and it really depends on the player, right? So let's see. For me, there's a card that will basically reduce your health as you're in the playfield, and then you have to kill AI or commons and other specials to get your health back. And so it takes a lot of team coordination. It's a later card. It takes a lot of team coordination to sort of spread out the kills, because if one person's killing, then they're getting all the health back and everybody is losing health. So you have to sort of share the kills. So it takes quite a bit of coordination. So if you're not ready for that, you're kind of a lone wolf. That one's really gonna hurt you, because you might go in and get all the kills and then everybody else is dead. So yeah.
For me, there's the one that gets me always is there's a card that can make the commons, when you shoot them and you get headshots on them, then they explode with poisonous gas stuff. And so but I'm always, I've been trained for who knows how many hours to shoot the head, right? And so then I'm just instinctively shooting all the heads, and it's creating this poisonous or acid everywhere, and so we have a much harder time where you just start shooting the body and the limbs, right? So like Brandon said, really ultimately we're trying to push players into different types of play styles and using different kinds of cards and different strategies round by round to really counter what the director's doing. So
along those lines, I guess to wrap it up, what are some of the things that playing on a higher difficulty can cause the director to do? How does the director handle higher difficulties, since difficulties are such a major part of keeping people to play games like Back 4 Blood?
Sure. So because it's dynamic, on the lower difficulties, we can kind of ease into the higher challenge or higher corruption cards or the nastier specials. So as you go in higher difficulties, we scale that forward. So you're going to start hitting those stronger elite specials before you've really got all your cards or you've upgraded your weapon. We also add more RNG, so there's less preparing for what the game director is going to throw at you. So in Nightmare, pretty much anything can happen. The first level you might get armored commons, right? And or you might get the blighted, where they explode and then leave the acid pools. Whereas on Recruit, we've really doled those out, so it's a nicer experience. And then we do lots of stuff with max health, so you'll get worn down over time, and you'll really need to invest in the cards to counter that stuff by, going into econ so you can heal yourself at the healing station.
Taking toolkits so you can use the trauma stations. Yeah,
we definitely, as you get in the higher difficulties, we kind of require teamwork. If a tall boy or a crusher or a bruiser get onto the field in higher difficulties, we ping them, we call them out, and everybody focuses them, or that the tall boy is going to really hurt your team, separate them, and then all the commons are going to pick them apart. So that's a really big teamwork is a really big thing. So.
All right, well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Brandon. That is a deep dive into the game director in Back 4 Blood. And we've got more Back 4 Blood content coming all throughout the month of August, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.